In this video, I'm going to talk about how strong masculine men can lose their sense of self-confidence and also their sense of self. Hey, I'm Nikk Hughes, Director of Inspire Tribe and co-creator of the EQ Code. We assist leadership teams to create super sharp alignment so that they can cut through the biggest of challenges. I hope you'll enjoy this tip. We all know that life is full of twists and turns, but for some men, particularly strong, masculine, confident men, life can take a very different turn after about 30 to 40 years old. So what happens is these men, and it's also for some women, these men and women start off doing pretty well in high school, or maybe averagely. It doesn't really matter what high school is, but when they get into the workforce, they really find their groove and they find their niche and they find themselves and they start to kick some goals, some really solid goals. And one goal leads to confidence, which leads to them kicking more goals, which leads to more self-confidence, and they end up in this space of feeling really good about themselves. But then they either hit a major roadblock or they totally miss the mark on a big project on the work front, or they get demoted unexpectedly, or they just drop out of favour and they have no idea why. That's on the work front. On the home front, it could be a totally different set of situations. They might have an affair and be found out, or have an addiction that either gets found out or just builds up until the other half can't tolerate it anymore. And from that point forward, life changes. So when life changes, what happens is that internal sense of confidence is no longer there. That sense of life will always be okay seems to have vanished. And in its place is a sense of dread for some. It's a sense of lethargy for others. I just see it's really hard to keep moving, or the waves come and go, like the confidence comes and goes, and they start to lose confidence about when they're going to have confidence. So the question is, what's happened? And the challenge is, what's happened feels so subtle that they just can't put their finger on it. They know that there's something different, and they're wishing for the old days to come back, the old days where they used to feel really confident, but they don't know how to get there. The challenge is that the old days, the old self-confidence, was a sense of boyish self-confidence. So what that means is the self-confidence was based on the external. So when they kicked big goals or did great things, then they got to feel wonderful within themselves. But when life knocked on them, they didn't know how to handle those knocks, because the internal sense of self wasn't nearly as strong as that external bravado. So the bravado is a bit hollow, and it was always a boyish sense of bravado rather than the really solid, masculine, manly sense of bravado. So how does one go from being in that shell of a person to rebuilding that inner sense of self-confidence? And I think actually what I've said there is that the point is there's never been an inner sense of self-confidence for most of the men in this situation. So what's happened is they were always built up to understand that external success equals internal feeling of feeling good. But what we need to understand is that step one is to understand that external success shouldn't equal internal feeling good, or external failure shouldn't equal an internal sense of feeling bad. The internal and the external should be separated. So a sense of self-confidence and of feeling good about yourself should be independent of what's happening outside of yourself. Now, getting to this stage can be quite difficult for many men, and that's because their whole life has been based on external wins equal internal success. So flipping that and understanding just that I'm okay for myself. So standing naked in front of the mirror, not suggesting that you have to do that, but just imagining that, standing naked in front of the mirror, knowing that all of life is going to shit. Can I still look at myself in the mirror and go, I'm proud of who I am? That's the actual point that we want to get to. So we want to understand that it's time to look inwards and go, without any external success, indeed with external failure, who am I? Am I someone that I'm proud of? And so that's the second step, is to look inwards, and generally speaking, the answer will be no, I'm not proud of myself if I don't have external success. So the third and final step is to build up that internal sense of self. Now, what is required here is to stop looking to the past self, because the past self, yes, it was wonderful, and yes, it was light and full of energy and power, but it was a boyish sense of power. So now we want to create a knowing masculine sense of power, one that is based on, no matter what the external is, I'm proud of how I show up. I'm proud of who I'm being on a day-to-day basis. So it's getting clear on, in the future, who would you like to be? If you were standing amidst a whole heap of failure, but you are still proud of yourself, who would you need to be in order to feel that sense of pride and that sense of self? And once you've understood what that is, you can list those ideas, ideally in your iPhone or something, just so you can remember it and check in on them if you need to. Once you understand what it is to feel that sense of self, so it might be that I want to show up being kind, I want to show up being strong, and I want to show up being certain of what I know and happily certain about what I don't know. That might be 3 or 4 things that you go, that's me. And if I can do that, then I'll feel proud of myself as a man or as a woman, if you're the masculine energy in a female. And when we can get to that place, we can start to feel an internal sense of self-confidence that has nothing to do with the external, and then we can start to take on life in a very strong and solid way. The key to any form of transformation, be it micro or macro, is to take good information, such as in this video, to add to that a sincere desire to make it happen, and then to make sure that you implement. So if you'd like support with that implementation, feel free to click on the link below or contact us via the details in this video.